good. I thought that the conflict there and our involvement had been very disruptive and damaging to the people. It had been a long, drawn-out, terrible situation. On a day-to-day personal basis where we met civilians, we tried to do the best we could to give them food, to give them any advantage that we could afford them. Hopefully, their contact with Americans, in a lot of cases, gave them motivation to further their education, to have a better life. Our description to them of our country and the great things that we enjoyed oftentimes was encouraging to them. So I think we did, on a personal basis, some good. I think generally, broad aspect of it was not good for the people and was bad. Mm-hmm. So I had feelings of discouragement and regret for being there.
Yeah. Were you close with anyone? Did you make any really good friends that you're still in contact with today?
I haven't had contact for years, but I had some of the guys that I served with were really good buddies, good friends, and we spent not only the 8 or 9 months together in Vietnam, but we got to come back and serve together stateside. But as life goes on, people live their lives and go their separate ways, so I haven't kept close contact.
What was it like when you got home? Like, what was the reaction of the people?
Well, in my case, I wasn't in a big city. I went right to work. A lot of my old friends were still around, so life was a little different. Of course, people had grown and matured, and at that age, when you're in your early 20s, people are finishing school, they're getting married, having families. And so there were changes after I returned home, but generally across the country there was a negative reception for veterans coming home. It wasn't like World War II. It wasn't a celebration by any means. Mm-hmm. My unit, we came home as a group. A lot of Vietnam veterans were finished their term and they came home individually. Mm-hmm. In my case, our unit came back from Vietnam together and we spent time together. And we were given certain assignments when we were stateside. We marched in a couple of parades. Mm-hmm. We actually had to go to some parades in Louisville and Columbus, Ohio, other places like that for 4th of July or Memorial Day. And there was some patriotic response, but for the most part, Vietnam had pretty well run its course. Mm-hmm. And the military wasn't, they weren't celebrated. The end of the war wasn't anything to celebrate or be proud of at the time.
Yeah. Do you think our country specifically, or our political leaders, do you think they did a good job and they had a good understanding of the conflicts that were going on? And like since then, do you think we've learned anything?
I don't think they had a very good. They definitely did not have access to what was happening on the ground in Vietnam, and I don't think they really were concerned about it. Mm-hmm. I think the leaders at the time were self-serving and everything that you can say bad about capitalism was happening. I'm a capitalist and I believe in our free society and I love the Constitution and I'm a patriot and I love America. And a lot of that feeling within me has come from my service in Vietnam in the military. Excuse me. Seeing those oppressed people and seeing what war does changes your opinion. But no, I think those that lead the country oftentimes are they're misleading in what they say and do. I don't know how to say this delicately. I don't think across the board leaders today necessarily learned anything from the Vietnam era, other than how not to get on the wrong side of the voting public politically because of their action. It seems like we've fallen into the same. Excuse me. I don't think we've learned much of a lesson. Witness what's happening in Iraq, Afghanistan, our involvement in Syria today. It seems like these little so-called police actions and wars to put down terrorist regimes, or whatever you want to call it, they proliferate the military-industrial complex. That's the term. For profit. And the people that suffer are on the ground. They're the civilians, people, women, children that can't escape the hazards of war. And so, no, I can't say that. I don't think things have changed. I think the way the public perceives, or the way the media portrays, is more modern and more has a better spin on it. Back during the Vietnam era, we didn't have the media that we have today. We had black and white television. We had newsreels sent from Vietnam for the 6 o'clock news. Now we have live battle footage. We have live media in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Iraq. So it's different the way it's portrayed, but I'm hoping there's enough sentiment and regard for history that people will study and will learn, and then people can make good common sense judgments and not rely exclusively on our leaders or politicians. Young people like you need to study the issues and be able to form your opinions and make your decisions.
Now that you're older and you've grown up and lived your life, would you say that your opinion has changed since you were there? Yeah,
since my experience in Vietnam, I've had a great interest to study the history of that conflict, of that country and that region that I didn't have knowledge of at the time. And I've read many accounts of the history, politically, socially, the religions, those with investments and issues there. I've tried to get informed. I've tried to gain as much knowledge as I can so that I can understand all encompassing that Vietnam era and that issue, and then apply it to current events. Of course, with maturity and hindsight, with my own family, children and grandchildren, I have a great interest in peace in the world, and not these continuing conflicts. I have no regard for those that would send the best of our youth into harm's way. I don't think that's not productive. That's not a good way to go. I don't know what the answer is. We live in a dangerous world, and as long as there are people that are aggressive, that are self-serving and greedy, power-hungry, we're going to be facing these issues. Human nature is such that that's what we will always be dealing with. So good people everywhere need to be informed. They need to look at all the opinions and information and knowledge that they can collect.
Yeah. So
that we definitely want to avoid another situation like Vietnam. That's the lesson I've learned.
Well, thank you for letting me talk to you today.